Sound.
You're listening to Mad Sound Radio. And now, here's your host, Charlie John.
So, Sami Riggs, how are you doing?
I'm good, Charlie. How are you today?
Good. I'm doing great. It's good to see you. Although I was talking to someone last week about. I was like, this is the first time we've met. I don't think we've actually met physically. Maybe we have. I can't remember. But
no.
Yeah. This is just kind of my excuse to meet people, I guess, to do this podcast.
I mean, I like it. It's funny because when you're a musician, you know of so many other musicians, but half the time you either, like us, we've actually never met in person. I'm almost positive we have not met in person. Or you met along the way and then you can't even remember how.
Right. And again, like it's depending on what kind of gigs we go to and stuff is depending, like it all depends on who we meet there and all that stuff and what kind of gigs we're doing. And it all depends. But yeah, speaking of that, I was just listening to your new song, which came out today. We're recording this March 1st. And it's called Daniel, Are You Listening? And it's really great. I love it. It's really cool.
Thank you.
So I guess one question is, are you just doing singles now? Are you ramping up to anything that you want to talk about or can talk about? Or?
Yeah, so I'm definitely kind of doing the waterfall single release thing.
Love it.
I mean, in a perfect world, 10 years ago, I wanted to put out an entire album. But then once time goes by, you're like the game has changed. And, I don't want people to wait any longer to hear the stuff that I've written and I've done.
Yeah.
So but also I feel like it would be a different beast to just release an entire album too, because I'm still kind of figuring things out. But with these singles, I'm learning something new every time I'm releasing it. And, hopefully getting better every time that I release a new song. And really, right now, I definitely have 2 more songs on deck, like pretty much ready to go. So I'm hoping by the end of this year, I'll have at least maybe 2 or 3 more out there in the world.
Okay.
And it's funny because like the stuff so Daniel, Are You Listening was co-written and produced by Brian Lovely. And a lot of my songs the ones that I've released have been co-written with Brian. But I'm going to be putting one of the songs that I'm going to be releasing soon is called Black Sheep and has a completely different vibe to it, more of a kind of a country rock vibe to it. So I'm kind of excited to explore other sounds and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with what you're saying about the waterfall method. That's something that's very popular with indie artists nowadays, to release songs and put them in the same kind of EP or something like that. But there is always that thing in the back of your head about an album, no?
Again, in a perfect world. I don't know.
Yeah, perfect world.
Because I'm pretty sure we're around the same age. So I'm 32. When we were kids, we would buy a CD and we would listen to it front to back. And then you would have transitions in between songs and you knew what transition was going to lead into the next song. And I loved that.
Yeah.
And as when I was a kid and I was getting into writing and music and stuff, I mean, I feel like a lot of us, especially, our age group, we envision putting music out into the world like that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, speaking of that, like who were you listening to back then? Who was inspiring you to get going?
It's kind of crazy because I feel like I'm all over the map with things that just like really resonated with me when I was a teenager. So
Yeah.
when I think of those transitions and stuff, I'm thinking of Linkin Park in my head, because
Okay.
when I was
That's
in
cool.
eighth
Yeah.
grade, that
Yeah.
was my jam, you know? You were
Right.
misunderstood and you jammed out
Yeah.
hybrid theory. And
Yeah. Absolutely.
but I mean, my mom listened to Sheryl Crow and Tom Petty. So I
Hmm.
did have those kind of classic singer-songwriters influencing me too.
Yeah.
But,
Absolutely.
from a young kid going into, high school, it was
Uh-huh.
Paramore, Linkin Park,
Sure.
all the emo stuff.
All the emo stuff, and it's so funny because that stuff definitely comes out in your music. Would you call yourself just a singer songwriter? Because this last track is very much like a '60s rock thing
Yeah.
happening. Was that always the idea with this song, or?
So I think when I write, a lot of times I feel like I've been getting better about it, but a lot of my songs, they're kind of like that mid tempo, super slow. They need something more, and
Yeah.
I think Brian brings that out in the song a lot. I, as far as kind of the sounds and the groove of the song, I definitely feel like
Hmm.
that's Brian's production and his because he's very influenced by like the Beatles and things like that,
Right.
where even with the harmonies and stuff, when we go into the studio,
Yeah.
I hear a harmony, but he pushes me to do something different. And a lot of times
Okay.
it's harmonies I can't hear it, and I have to have him sing the note multiple times because my brain is going
Hmm.
here, but my voice is going
Right.
here and I can't hit it.
Yeah.
But
I
I
get that.
so as far as I mean, I definitely consider myself a singer-songwriter now more than ever, but it's tough because when you get into production, the
Hmm.
song can turn into something totally different.
Yeah. For sure. It'll kind of tell you what it should have been all along, or something like that.
Yeah,
Which is a really interesting and cool thing that you learn more and more as the more you write. You know what I mean?
absolutely. And I mean, it's crazy though, because you can take a song and you can just, have a voice memo on your phone and it's just acoustic guitar and you singing. You go into the studio and you can take it in a million different directions.
Yeah, yeah. It can kind of at points it can kind of be overwhelming in that sense, where it's like, did I take it in the right direction, all that stuff. But yeah, that's one of the things about music that I kind of love too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean, I listen to your stuff and it's
Sure.
definitely, I mean, I get like the poppy vibe, but then,
Yeah.
yeah, but see, I like that you can do so many different things, and of course you can produce. I don't do any of that stuff, but
Sure. Yeah. I try. I mean, yeah, but the going back to the all over the place musically, and like genre wise, I feel like I'm all over the place in at least what I like too. It's like kind of all over the place, and that comes through in my music. And there was a part of me that for a while thinks maybe I should stick with one thing, stick with one lane, kind of do that whole thing, build your artist career with one kind of sound. You know what I mean? But also, like, that's not necessarily being true to myself, right?
I agree with that. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of
So, I mean,
people
have you ever struggled with?
look at
Oh, sorry.
Beyonce.
I think we. Yeah, I know. Hey, I know. It's it's so as far as that kind of stuff. I mean, you'll just so the next song could sound very much different than a '60s rock vibe. You know what I mean? For you.
Yeah, so the next single I'm releasing, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Upside Down. And it's a little more stripped down. than like Moonflowers and Daniel, Are You Listening? But,
Yeah.
and the few people that have heard it have kind of said they feel like it has a 90s vibe to it, but
Cool.
it's still, it's fun, you know? And,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, it's crazy because I don't know, like people, and I don't have a band put together yet. That's kind of a goal for me. I really want to put a band together so I can
It's hard. It's hard to do.
play shows
tough.
and the songs can sound like the recording, because so many people hear
Yeah.
me play them acoustically, especially my friends and family
Right.
that have heard them a million times played acoustic. And
Yeah.
they'll listen to them and they're like, that doesn't sound like that song.
Oh,
Well, it is that song.
Well,
it just has
it is that
bass and
song.
drums and
Yeah, and it could potentially sound cooler. It's a different version, right? I mean, it's kind of a cooler, different thing, which is another thing to be to be able to offer an acoustic version of that song is really cool. You know what I mean? But the band thing is tough. Have you had a backing band before?
nope.
Never. Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's it's a tough thing, especially now. And my first thing that I always come to is financially is it could be really tough. But then I talk to guys like Matt Waters, who's very, he's just killing it, and he's just like, as far as I know, he's just doing so much, playing so much with the band all the time, and he talks to me about it, and he's like, he has all these specific rules for how much they get paid and all that stuff. And I'm like, wow, if he can get that, that's an amazing thing.
He's treating it like a business.
He has that mind for it. It's cool.
But I mean, I feel like you have to be that way. If you want something of quality, you kind of have to have parameters for what you're willing to accept as far as like pay goes. And like people kind of know, they know what to expect, so they're more likely to be reliable, and you know what I mean?
They're right. Do you think that's, yeah, I do know what you mean, but you got to find the right people who are invested in the music as much as you are, right? Who are willing to maybe even take a pay cut on everything that's happening, live shows, all that stuff.
Yeah. Again, though, I don't have a band, so who am I?
I know exactly. I don't know. I don't know who I'm talking to, but I'm talking to myself because I don't have a band either. Because I haven't had a band ever. But it's just something that's stuck in the back of my head. And this kind of leads into my next question, which is I always ask people. I like to ask people on the current state of the music industry. What's the best and worst parts about it right now for you?
I mean, I feel like when I kind of decided, I don't know, when I was 10 years ago, I was going to be a writer and I wanted to do this music thing. You're thinking to yourself, oh, well, I just have to be a really good singer and I just have to be a really good writer and performer. But now you literally have to be a jack of all trades, especially with social media and everything. That's mostly how you're getting yourself out into the world as far as people getting to hear your music and stuff. You're not going and putting flyers up at the music store or on the sidewalk. So you just have all of these different aspects of your business.
Yeah.
And you're navigating all of that, but
tough.
You don't have a team of people doing it for you. You're doing it all yourself.
Yeah, and exactly. And what goes for the band can go for a quote unquote team. If you ever were to get one, they have to be inspired as you. Maybe not that, but almost as inspired as much as in your career to be able to do all this admin work and all these emailing and all that stuff, cold emailing to bars and clubs, and a lot of people don't know what goes into that, man. It takes a lot.
Well, I think I was thinking about this pretty recently about Taylor Swift, the monster that she is. And I'm like, okay, so Taylor Swift is at the top. She's the writer, but like she has a team of people helping her do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yes.
they have to be good at what they do for her. I mean, she has had, yes, she's talented and she's come this far, but like there are people behind her that helped her get there too. And
Yes.
it's just crazy to think about, everything that goes into that. I can't even imagine.
Oh yeah. And what's fun, and now, I mean, she obviously can pay people good money for that kind of stuff, and to be really, really good at that kind of thing. And that it seems like it's a lot. And that, because of the way social media is and the internet is, it has now fallen on us to be able to work at that level. Sometimes we think we need to be working at that level, just us by ourselves. And that's something hard to take in a lot of the time.
For sure. I mean, I think about that. I'm like, who updates her cover photo on Facebook?
Interesting. Intern, maybe.
Who? It's like, is it really Taylor? No, there's no way.
Yeah, no,
Maybe it is.
She had. Well, again, she has the wherewithal, and I don't know if that's the right word, but she has the resources now to be able to probably just focus on the creative, which is what we all want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's amazing thing. Oh, you there?
I'm here.
Oh, I think you cut out for a second.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got
I'm
you.
here.
Okay, great. Well, if so since Taylor is the is the top end, and that's what people see and that's what people want, I mean, first of all, do we want that? Yeah. I mean, there's always something in the back of your head that's like, oh yeah, for sure. I'd take that in a second. But as far as making it, you're quote unquote making it, there's that is a thought that's different for everybody, I think. What's your idea right now of making it as a musician?
I think for me, it's ticking off things that, and it's changed over time, When I was a kid singing in a hairbrush, I wanted to be Shania Twain. I wanted to be up on stage dancing and singing. And then I get older and I'm like, well, I'm not much of a dancer. And even now, even with, I perform, but I get anxiety performing. I push through the fear of being scared.
Yeah.
And I think about it on like a massive scale. Would that really be what I want? I'm not so sure. I'm sure you'd build up the courage the more that you do it. And that would probably come with time. But I think now for me, realistically, I just want to, write good songs and write with other people that are good writers. And maybe someone wants to cut my song,
Sure.
It'd be cool to just see my name as a writer on a song in the top.
Oh man. Totally. That's definitely, and that's possible. Obviously that's possible. But going back to the gigging thing and the anxiety thing, it's so funny because I was thinking about this last night. I played at Tin Roof last night, and it was fun and great and everything. It was my first time there. I pretty much just do cover gigs now. I do a lot of private events. I do a lot of weddings and stuff like that. So these kind of gigs are the club gigs are kind of less and less for me. But I was so anxious, and then as soon as you start, it kind of, for me at least, it fades away as soon as I start playing. And I think back to what you were talking about, it depends on the audience, right? If you're Taylor Swift going out there and everyone wants to hear your music, are you as nervous? You know what I mean?
Probably
If
not.
you're trying to win people over with covers, get people to applaud. If they're not applauding, that's totally fine too. Like there's kind of a like squeeze in your original music, all that kind of stuff. So are you doing those kind of gigs? Are you doing a lot of cover gigs, or are you doing original gigs, or?
So I feel like I burned myself out on cover gigs. Probably
Yeah.
21 and 22. It's slowly kind of started to decrease for me the amount of cover gigs I was booking. And I still, I mean, sounds bad, but right now I'm pretty much only booking things that are just kind of falling into my lap as far as cover gigs go.
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
for
yeah.
like writing stuff, I am trying to push to do like writers rounds and things that involve an original music more.
Yeah.
Those aren't always paid though, but
Right. That's the thing.
I'm kind of in a point in my career now for like my day job where I don't rely on the income of like gigs as much. So obviously it's tax season, and I just sent everything into my CPA earlier this week. And let's just say the outgoing was a lot higher than the incoming.
It always is.
Everything I did last year for music, it was mostly me spending money on graphic design, merch. Yeah. But I feel more fulfilled.
That's the thing. Yeah, totally. Again, the cover gigs will pay you more as kind of a worker. And that's pretty much my day job right now, and I'm lucky to be able to say that, you know what I mean? But as far as pushing yourself to do, I feel like I have to push myself to do more original gigs to get myself out there as an artist. Do you feel that way? Or are you just, that's what needs to happen, that's what's going to happen?
So I started kind of doing some writers round stuff, and I think when you do that more, it does kind of hook you a little bit, because usually the people that are in those rooms listening, they want to hear original music and they eat it up.
Right.
So that is a far cry from sitting in a corner at a bar singing Sweet Caroline.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Not that, like, I don't knock anybody for doing covers. I mean, I did it for a long time, and like, you do learn a lot from it. You do. And I mean, you become a better performer. You think quicker on your feet. But it is weird to, I shouldn't say weird. It's just, it's a different animal when you're playing in a room and people are quiet and they're listening to what you wrote.
It's, yeah.
And that is almost
weird
scary.
at first.
It is scary at first.
I know. Yeah.
And it took me a while to like not be so nervous that my voice is shaking doing it.
Right. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. That's a whole other thing. But the difference between those two things is interesting, between just, go play your covers over in a corner for 3 hours and we'll pay you a couple $100, whatever. And then having the room silent. And those listening room gigs, man, there's nothing better. I love everyone who puts them together. Shout out to Scott Skiebeck. He got me in early doing some of his listening room gigs and all that stuff. But
yeah, I thought you had done
there's nothing better.
Downtown listening room. And I think that's one of the first ones I had done as well.
How many times have you done that?
With Scott, probably at least 3 or 4 times.
Okay. Yeah, those are fun.
It's wild,
and it's different
because I don't know the way that you could sing a song a million times and it's an emotional song, but then when like the room, you can almost feel people's energy, and it can bring you to tears because
Yeah.
the last one I played back in October, I played my song When We Grow Up. I was fine.
Mhm.
I got through the song. And then someone
Yeah.
in the front row was like, "What did you write that about?" And I immediately just broke
Ah.
into tears. And I'm like, I was not expecting you to ask me
That's
that
funny.
question.
Yeah.
I did not prepare myself to like have to explain.
Right.
Even though I've
Yeah.
played it a
Yeah.
million times at this point, and normally I'm fine.
Yeah.
But especially when you write a song that's like pretty close to your heart, it's a vulnerability for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's totally different than doing cover gigs and all. And it's the Sweet Caroline. Yeah, man, sung that 1,000 times.
Ba, ba,
Call that a crowd pleaser, dude. I'm telling you, it is like you play private parties for like older folks, man. There's nothing more they want than Sweet Caroline at later in the night as people are starting to drink and stuff. It's just anyway.
Yeah.
But,
You know what? I lied to you when I said
yeah.
I never had a backing band. Because when I was like 16 and I was in a band called Just Gravy with my friend
Oh, okay.
Ed Wilbur's on the keys, and we would have like a rotating lineup of people. But
Yeah.
all of them they're still friends of mine to this day, but all of them are like twice my age. And we would play
wow.
all of those songs though. It was Sweet Caroline,
Yeah.
Don't Stop Believing.
All the classics. Oof. So what were you just the front man of the
Front woman.
Of this band? Front woman of this band, or was so but it wasn't your band.
It wasn't
right?
my band, no. Honestly, I think sorry, you probably hear my dogs barking right now.
That's all right.
Hank really wanted to be on this podcast. No, honestly, I think it was just a random band name chosen so that whoever he threw together, it was just, hey, we're playing at KJ's tonight, and I need you on bass, you on lead guitar. And then I had no idea what I was doing. I would stand up there with my guitar, but half the time I didn't even know what key we were playing in because I'm not classically trained. And
yeah, so did you start when you were 22? As I think you said 10 years ago, or were you playing when you were 16?
So I started playing guitar when I was in like middle school. And my guitar teacher at the time, I would go out to play at bars when I was like 12 with her and her husband. And so that's kind of how I got started singing in places. So
that's really cool.
She would play guitar and I would sing. So like I still have some home videos of us playing together when I was a kid.
That's so fun.
And throughout the years, I would say by the time I was 16, that's when I actually started playing solo shows. Had no idea what I was doing. Okay. I'd forget my capo. I would forget a chord.
Man. Man, dude, I've forgotten my guitar to gigs.
I haven't done
because
that
my mind just goes blank when I'm anxious about something. I'm like all this obvious stuff goes away. Mm-hmm. Like all the stuff that's quote unquote obvious. I literally had to go to like a bartender and be like, "Hey, do you have like a guitar I could borrow?" And luckily her boyfriend like had one or whatever. But yeah, a lot that early on can be overwhelming too.
Yeah. I mean, I think back on those days and I'm like, whoa, I was so unprepared and underqualified to be doing this. But I did it anyway. What were they thinking?
Yeah, that's great. So when you said 10 years ago, you meant like started writing music when you were 22?
Yeah, I would say I probably, I'm trying to think. I think that's around the time that Brian and I started co-writing together. So that's,
Cool.
I mean, I've been writing since forever. I still have a Hannah Montana folder from like high school.
Love it.
And
Yeah.
I went through some of those recently. And let me tell you, I don't know how I thought I was any good at writing. It was bad.
Wow.
I love you, but you don't love me.
Sure. Oh, the cheesiest stuff, man. You need to get that stuff out. I'm telling you, it's just, but, yeah. Speaking of, who are you listening to right now? Still with Miley?
Yeah. I was kind of on Miley there for a little bit. I don't know. I feel like I go through these spurts where I'll listen to a song on repeat and then I get tired of it. But
Oh yeah.
I don't even know what I've been listening to. Honestly, probably. I lied. I do know what I've been listening to.
Okay.
Usher has been living rent free in my head since the week of the Super Bowl. So I did have
Since Super Bowl.
I was listening to his radio station, and it was bringing.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it was great. No, I was just gonna say that Super Bowl was amazing. What he did, halftime show.
And I mean, I always remembered loving his songs, and
Yeah.
going back and listening to them now, especially now that I'm more involved in like the songwriter world, I'm like, dude, those are actually like that's R&B.
Yeah.
It's R&B. They're well done songs, man.
Really well
And
done.
I'm like, where is some of that?
Yeah.
Where is it?
That's I ever since I started writing songs, I look into who writes these songs. You know what I mean? I look into the credits, I look into the producing, and a lot of times there's, even in like Usher's case or anything like something like that, he had huge hit songs. I'll be like, oh, there's these 2 or 3 guys, they seem to write on a lot of these R&B tracks, and that's kind of a cool thing to note. And the production, how they get that sound for Usher and all that kind of stuff is, but
Literally.
that only became interesting.
I'm trying to think. I think it might be "You Got It Bad," but the wind sound in that song.
Yeah.
And every time I hear that song, that wind makes me feel some type of way. I don't know why.
Somebody in a studio thought that. They were like, this wind sound needs to go in right here.
Seriously.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Some of that stuff is amazing. But yeah, we're about done here. One last thing. Is there anything? This episode will probably, this is season 2 we're doing right now, so probably end of March, early April will be popping off, as the kids say. Anything you want to promote? Obviously, Daniel, Are You Listening will still be out, her new single, Sami Riggs. Anything other than that?
Not really.
I saw that you're doing. I saw that you're doing lyric videos for a lot of this stuff for singles and stuff. Is that like kind of like your main thing? Do you want to do more complex like music video kind of stuff, or is that you just sticking with lyric videos right now?
I do want to do an actual music video. I have conceptual ideas for stuff I've released already. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. I'm excited for Black Sheep because I am actually,
nice.
I'm teaming up with a farm that is where I grew up, and the name of their farm is called Black Sheep Farmstead.
Oh, cool.
And so I actually emailed them a few weeks ago, and I'm like, hey, I have this crazy idea. Can I come out to your farm and do photography? And
oh, that's awesome.
The goal is I really do think I want to have a video done there for Black Sheep.
Right.
And they were so receptive to the idea. It blew me away. They've already put me in contact with the local newspaper to do a story about it. And
that's so cool.
I'm like, this is so cool that
That is cool.
they're this excited,
Yeah. That's amazing. Everyone look out for that stuff, man. Again, like when you can team up with people like that who are interested and invested and like helping out other independent artists, it's kind of a really cool thing,
It's refreshing for sure. And I mean, we talked on the phone for like over an hour, kind of like swapping stories and,
Yeah.
why they named their, farmstead Black Sheep. And we're like swapping stories. And it's cool, that
Yeah.
music does connect us with others in so many different ways other than just like people experiencing our music. It's in all the art that we do that whether it's getting photography done or having a music video shot. So,
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so everywhere on social media, just at Sami Riggs.
Sami Riggs, SamiRiggs.com will link you to all of my socials. I think the only ones that I'm not on are X, formerly Twitter, and Threads.
Oh, Threads, man. Instagram, stop trying to make me sign up for Threads or get on Threads or whatever. Just stop it.
Nobody wants.
I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants it.
I'm trying to.
I'm not going to do it.
I'm trying to do the TikTok thing and kind of.
It's tough.
No. I had a cool idea for March, but I don't, March Madness.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe I'll be crazy and I'll put a song up one time a day in March.
That's cool.
But
yeah.
We'll see if it happens,
we'll
Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. I will not hold you to it. I swear. Thank you so much for being on. We'll have to get you back. Thanks for doing it. I really appreciate it, Sami.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Of course. Everyone go listen to Daniel while you're listening. There's a lyric video on YouTube. If you just search Sami Riggs, I'm sure you'll get there. It's also all over your social media.
Yep.
And thanks again for being on.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks for listening to Mad Sound Radio.